My name is Delaney Voss. I'm 36, a trauma nurse in Bozeman, Montana, and the only daughter-in-law who never quite fit into the Price family legacy. They were wealth, I was work. They played tennis at the country club. I stitched up oil riggers at 3 a.m. I married their golden son, Bryce, and for a while I thought that meant I belonged. I was wrong. They never forgave me for choosing a hospital shift over a champagne brunch, or for asking too many questions after Bryce died. I always knew there were shadows in that family. Cold silences, locked rooms, rewritten stories. But nothing prepared me for the sound of my sister-in-law's children knocking on my door at 4:30 in the morning, barefoot in pajamas, shaking, lips blue, whispering that Grandpa had changed the lock code 3 years after he was buried. And that's when I knew someone dead was still pulling the strings. 3 knocks, soft but deliberate. I sat up in the dark, instinct already faster than thought. The air in my duplex was sharp enough to cut skin. The furnace had cycled off hours ago. Ice lined the inside of the window, like spider veins. I reached for the baseball bat beside my bed. Always kept it there. Our nurses see things that don't let you sleep easy, especially in a town where people smile too much for a place that buries so many secrets. I checked the clock for 30 a.m. No one knocks with good news at that hour. The knocks came again, this time quicker, more urgent. I flipped on the porch light, bat still in hand. Then I froze. Keegan Price, age 11, was on my doorstep in soaked pajama bottoms, his arms locked tight around his sister Isla, 7, limp in his grasp like a doll that had been left too long in the snow. Her lips were purple, her eyes half closed, her breathing wrong, gurgled, fast, dying. He was shaking so hard, he nearly dropped her when I opened the door. "Please," he whispered. "She can't breathe." 20 seconds. That's how long it took to snap into triage mode. Get her inside. Strip off the wet clothes. Wrap the core, not the limbs. Nebulizer. Saline. Manual heat. Control the airway. Don't panic. The girl on my couch wasn't just another case. She was Bryce's niece. My blood by marriage. My responsibility, whether they wanted me to have it or not. Keegan collapsed on the entryway tile, knees buckling as soon as the weight left his back. I caught Isla with one arm, wrapped her in my ER blanket stash, and kicked the door shut with my heel. Then I saw his feet, bare, split skin, blistering frostbite already forming across the arch. Jesus, Keegan. He didn't look at me. His eyes were locked on Isla, like if he stared hard enough, he could force her lungs to start working again. I got the nebulizer running. Steam hissed. Her wheeze shifted from sharp to shallow. A small victory. I grabbed a mug, filled it with chocolate milk, microwaved it just enough not to scald, shoved a straw in, and held it to Keegan's lips. "Drink," I said. He obeyed. Tiny sips. Each one triggered a wince, as warmth met tissue that had been frozen for hours. I wrapped him in every towel I owned. My fingers trembled, not from cold, but from fury. "Where's your mother?" I asked. He didn't answer. "Keegan, where is Eleanor?" He blinked. Then, slowly, "She left. There was a dinner thing. Grandpa told her to beat the snow. Said we'd be fine." I stared. "Grandpa." His lips parted, but no sound came out. "I saw his name on the smart lock," he mumbled. "Last night, before the code changed." I felt the blood drain from my face. Victor Price was dead. 3 years. Stroke. Cremated. Urn in Eleanor's kitchen, right next to the coffee grinder. "What do you mean his name?" Keegan's hands clenched into fists. He changed the code. I saw it. I called Deputy Crim. My voice clinical. Too calm. 2 pediatric medical emergencies. Suspected endangerment. Immediate response required. Then I moved fast. Vitals were holding. Frostbite likely treatable. Isla still needed a hospital, but the immediate danger was contained. I turned back to Keegan. His face had gone pale again. Not from cold this time. From something else. Memory. I told her we shouldn't play the game, he whispered. But Isla said Grandpa's voice came out of the speakers. I stopped. What speakers? Keegan stared at the wall. The ones in the house. The new system. He said we were bad. That we didn't deserve the heat. Outside, sirens cut through the white noise of the storm. I opened the door just long enough to flag them in. EMTs swept Isla onto a gurney. I followed. I never let go of Keegan's hand. My duplex faded behind me. Light still on, door still cracked open. And that's when I noticed it. A second set of footprints in the snow. Not Keegan's. Not Isla's. Larger. Leading away from the door. No return prints. They didn't come from the woods. They walked away. Aunt Delaney. I looked down. Keegan's voice shook again, but not from cold. Grandpa changed the code last night. I saw his name on the screen. The ER hallway was buzzing with fluorescent light and the faint smell of bleach. Nurses moved like ghosts, fast, efficient, faceless. I held Isla's hand as they wheeled her down the corridor. Her tiny fingers still cold despite the heated blankets. Keegan followed behind, wrapped in a coat 2 sizes too big. He hadn't said another word. People always think blizzards are quiet. They're wrong. Snow has a sound when it's trying to bury something. I stopped at the reception desk. Voss. Trauma. These 2 are mine for now. Avery Dinah looked up from a chart. Her eyes narrowed, scanning the kids, then flicking to me. Delaney. Again. My stomach turned. Again. I asked low. She leaned closer, voice under her breath. We've seen them before. Isla had a fractured rib last summer. They said she fell from a swing set. Keegan had a sprain. 2 months ago. I didn't breathe for 3 seconds. Then I exhaled through my teeth. Did you report it? Standard documentation, nothing flagged. Eleanor charmed the attending. Typical. Money doesn't scream, it whispers. And it rewrites stories before anyone can ask the right question. I followed the gurney to room 4. Isla's eyes fluttered as they adjusted her nasal cannula. Her breathing had stabilized. For now. I turned back toward the waiting area and froze. Eleanor Price walked in like she owned the place. Cashmere, lipstick, designer heels, completely impractical for snow. Her hair didn't have a single flake on it. No rush, no panic, just perfectly timed outrage. Oh my God, she said loud enough for the room to hear. Where are my children? She made a show of pushing past a nurse. Keegan tensed beside me. I stepped into her path. You left them in a garage. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Excuse me. You heard me. She turned to the nurse. I need to see my daughter, Isla Price. I'm her mother. I pulled out my badge. And I'm the one who kept her alive long enough for you to lie about it. Eleanor's expression didn't shift, but her nostrils flared. A nurse appeared. Ma'am, only one guardian at a time in the trauma bay. I am the guardian. Eleanor tilted her head, all condescension. Delaney, you've always had emotional issues. You think everything's a scandal. You left your kids in a 23-degree garage. Where they were playing, she snapped. Keegan messes with the thermostat. You know how boys are. Isla almost died. But sure, blame the thermostat. She pulled out her phone. The screen lit up. I saw the app. Her camera was rolling. Recording, she said sweetly, for my safety, since you're making baseless accusations again. She turned the screen on me. I didn't flinch. Then she did something I didn't expect. She held the phone out and tapped. A video played. Grainy footage of Keegan and Isla giggling, jumping on snow piles outside the Price house. Timestamp, 9:42 p.m. Same night. No coats, no distress, Eleanor said smugly. As you can see, I watched the video. Something felt wrong. I paused it. There was no snow at 9:42, I murmured. What? The storm didn't start until 10:30. You can check Noah, and he's wearing different pants in this video. Keegan whispered, that was 2 nights ago. Eleanor's smile twitched. She ended the video. No one will believe you, she said quietly. Not after what you did to Bryce. I didn't answer, because if I spoke I might scream. Deputy Crim arrived 10 minutes later, broad-shouldered, mismatched eyes. He walked with a limp from a logging accident, and he hated the Price family more than anyone who hadn't married into it. I heard there's a child endangerment report, he said. I pulled him aside, told him about the code, the voice from the speakers, the name that shouldn't be there. He listened, didn't blink. Then, you're not gonna like this. What? We pulled smart lock logs from the Price estate. Yeah. Access granted at 11:42 p.m. User ID, Victor P. I stared at him. He's dead, Rylan. I know. The hallway suddenly felt too quiet. He leaned in closer. Systems secure. Biometrics tied to a master user profile. Facial recognition. Voice. No spoofing. Not without admin override. I grabbed the wall to steady myself. Someone inside that house is using Victor's ID. Or pretending to be him. Or, no, not possible. I left the hospital to check my place. The wind had thickened to a white sheet. Streetlights were fogged over. Every sound felt amplified. Boots on snow, wind catching corners. The lock was off. Door cracked. I stepped in slow. Silence. My kitchen was dark. Only the fridge hum. My bedroom door was open. The hallway light was blinking. On the coffee table, one thing missing. Bryce's iPad. I hadn't touched it in over a year. I looked around. No glass broken. No signs of struggle. Just gone. I grabbed my phone. Notifications had piled up, but one pushed everything else down the screen. Price estate. Code change successful. User, Victor Price. The next morning came with no sun. Just white light diffused through ice-covered windows. The kind of light that made everything look too clean, too false. Like a morgue. I poured coffee with shaking hands. No milk. No sugar. Just heat. I didn't drink it. I needed something to do, while my thoughts played whack-a-mole in my skull. Victor Price's name had appeared on a digital log. The iPad was gone. The lock at my door had been tampered with again. And Eleanor's silence was suddenly louder than any accusation. I've learned something from working trauma. Monsters don't roar. They whisper in legalese. They wear scarves that cost more than your rent. They ask for clarification when they mean erasure. And if you're not careful, they write your story for you. I walked out the back door, coat over scrubs. My boots sank into 4 inches of new snow. I scanned the porch. Footprints. Faint but fresh enough. Not the kids. These were larger. Male. Evenly spaced. Steady gait. Too steady. They didn't approach from the driveway or street. They came from the tree line, and they ended at my bedroom window. I crouched low, checked the spacing. Whoever it was, they stood outside my window for a long time, watching, then turned. Walked away. No rush. No fear. Like they wanted me to know they'd been there. I drove straight to Ryland Crim's office. Sheriff's substation, 2nd floor behind the DMV. His desk was cluttered with case files, a bulletproof vest, and a box of protein bars he never opened. He didn't look surprised when I slammed the printed smart lock log on his desk. This is illegal, I snapped. He sighed. So is breaking into your house. I pointed to the access ID. Victor Price. 3 years dead. I know. Do you? He leaned back, crossed his arms. We ran the system data. It's legit. The ID's been reactivated from inside the Price estate. Facial recognition confirmed. Voice match at 86%. That's not possible. Nothing's impossible anymore, Delaney. Just improbable and expensive. I stared at him. Someone's impersonating him. Or faking the input. Could be. He looked away. Or someone never died. My stomach turned. You think, Bryce? I think you need to start asking the questions you've been avoiding. I buried my husband, Rylan. Then someone dug him back up. Cut scene. I drove to the Price estate. Not the main house. Too many cameras. Too much Eleanor. I aimed for the detached guest house where Victor used to do paperwork. The door was unlocked. Dust covered the floor, but one thing stood out. A muddy footprint. Fresh. And a small red light blinking under the desk. I crawled under. It was a voice-activated security hub. Old school. Legacy model from the 90s. Hadn't been used in years. But someone had hooked it to a new transmitter. Meaning? The voice command system inside the main house could be rerouted through here, which meant someone could trigger voice commands using a pre-recorded file. I hit play. Victor's voice flooded the room. Keegan, Isla, are you listening? It's time for your lesson. You were bad last night. Bad children don't get heat. I nearly vomited. It was recorded. Someone had made a soundboard of his voice, spliced from old voicemails, maybe even reading logs. It was a puppet act, a cruel one, but the kids had believed it. Of course they had. They were being gaslit with a ghost. The hairs on my neck rose. I wasn't alone. The guest house door creaked. Footsteps. Fast. I dove behind the desk. Waited. Breath shallow. A shadow passed the window. Too fast to see the face. But I caught the outline of a thick coat. A hood. Gone. I waited 10 minutes before leaving. Nothing outside but silence and snow. That night I didn't sleep. I sat by the window, staring at the trees, coffee growing cold. Then my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Still think Bryce is dead. Attached a photo. My front porch. Taken from the street. Time-stamped 2 hours ago. And standing in the frame, barely visible in the dark, was a tall figure in a parka. The same one Bryce used to wear. They were watching. Again. This time closer. This time with proof. And this time I wasn't sure I wanted to know who it really was. By dawn the storm had swallowed the world whole. Wind carved the street into white dunes. Trees bent like they were bowing to something they feared. I didn't wait for coffee. Didn't wait for answers. I drove straight to the Price mansion. The driveway lights glared too bright, halos in the storm. The place looked like a cathedral built for gods who never woke up. I stepped out. Snow hit my face like nails. Then I saw him. A tall figure stood by the gate. Motionless. Face hidden by a hood. The same parka Bryce wore. The same stance. The same height. Every nerve in my body went cold. Bryce. I didn't know I'd said it out loud. The figure turned, slowly. Fog swallowed his face before I could see it. Then he stepped back. 1 step. 2. And vanished behind the pines. Cut scene. I ran. Fast. Almost slipped. Heart thundering in my ears. When I reached the tree line, there was nothing but wind and the groan of old branches. The snow held footprints, though. Deep. Strong. But wrong. Bryce had a limp from a climbing accident. These prints were even. Too steady. Whoever it was walked with confidence. Like they owned the space. Still Bryce's parka. Bryce's height. Bryce's shape in the storm. I whispered, "Someone's using you, baby. Or wearing you." Someone wanted me to see that silhouette. Someone wanted to pull the thread. I felt watched. Every direction. All at once. A voice in my head repeated something my favorite instructor once said. Fear doesn't mean run. Fear means pay attention. I paid attention. I didn't knock on the mansion door. I stormed in. Eleanor Price was in the great room, hosting a press tour like nothing had happened. Lights, cameras, reporters sipping artisan coffee, while she smiled like a woman selling a brand, not burying a truth. Her voice dripped sugar. We care about legacy here. Price Holdings stands for. Cut the show. A couple reporters turned. Eleanor didn't. I stepped into the camera lights. My shadow stretched across the marble floor like a threat. You left your kids to freeze, I said. Her smile faltered a millimeter. Delaney, sweetheart, this is hardly the time. The time was last night. Reporters lowered their cups. Microphones angled my way. Eleanor moved fast. Her heel clicks sharper than usual as she reached me and gripped my elbow. Hard. Lower your voice, she whispered. You don't understand what you're stepping into. Then enlighten me. Her eyes flashed. You have no idea what my father-in-law planned for those children. Cut. She yanked me toward a hallway. I yanked back. A display cabinet wobbled. Glass shattered. Papers spilled out like a broken secret. I saw one slip toward my boot. Handwritten notes. The Price estate seal. The title. Addendum to will, custodial authority. I picked it up before a guard could stop me. 3 words circled in red. Custody transfer, Keegan only. Isla's name was missing. Explain this, I said. Eleanor's mouth tightened. You don't get to ask questions. That's the problem, I shot back. No one ever asked. And look where we are now. One of the reporters was filming. Eleanor noticed. Her expression cracked. Stop recording, she snapped. But cameras never listened to the guilty. Cut scene. Security herded the press out. Lights off. Doors slammed. Eleanor rounded on me. You think you can take my family down because of some late-night melodrama, and you don't comprehend? You're nothing to this estate. You never were. Her breath was ice. You left them in a garage, I said. You weren't supposed to see that. She froze at her own slip. Excuse me. Silence. A long one. The kind that hides a blade. You shouldn't have been home, she whispered. There it was. The truth people say only when they're cornered. Truth hates walls. It seeps through cracks. Before I could press further, a security guard approached her with a phone. Mrs. Price, it's from the cabin. They found something. Her face drained of color. What? The guard whispered. I caught only one phrase. In the snow, near the old fire pit. Eleanor looked at me. Panic flickered through her mask. Then resolve. The dangerous kind. I have to go, she said, turning. You're not going anywhere without telling me. She faced me again, eyes cold. If I were you, Delaney, I'd stop looking into things you don't want answers for. And then she was gone. I walked out the back door of the mansion. The storm had eased just enough to reveal something new. Footprints. Not the ones from earlier. Fresh ones. Leading from the woods straight to the window of the guest house I visited yesterday. I followed them a few steps before they blurred into the wind. But I saw the last impression, clearly like a stamp. A perfect boot print. Size about 11. Heavy tread. Same as the ones by my window. He was here, watching my fight with Eleanor. Waiting. Cut scene. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. A single message. Try again, Delaney. He's not done with you. And attached another photo. This time the figure wasn't far away. He was standing 15 feet behind me. In the current moment, meaning he took the photo, while I was reading the first message. The storm eased overnight, but the cold didn't. It felt like the kind of cold that wasn't weather, it was warning. I drove straight to Elijah Rourke's office, the only attorney in Montana who didn't flinch at price money. He was already waiting, suit pressed, eyes sharper than the edge of a bone saw. Sit, he said. I did. He slid a document across the polished oak desk. Same addendum I'd stolen from Eleanor's display case, but with something new attached. A certified copy from the county records vault. Victor Price's original will, Elijah said. No edits. No tampering. No Eleanor. I skimmed the pages, heart pounding. Line after line confirmed it. Keegan was meant to inherit 75% of Price holdings. Isla 0. Why? I whispered. Elijah tapped the margin. Victor believed girls shouldn't inherit. Old money logic. He planned to secure his legacy through the appropriate heir. That's sick. That's wealth, Elijah replied. Old wealth tries to survive evolution. He leaned forward. But here's the real issue. With Bryce dead, the children's legal guardian becomes Eleanor. Full control of the estate. Full control of Keegan's majority stake. My stomach turned. And Isla? I asked. He exhaled through his nose. Financially worthless to her. Cut scene. I slammed the file shut. She left them to die because Keegan was the only one who mattered. Elijah didn't argue. He slid me another document. There's more. Victor never filed the addendum legally. This version was signed, yes, but never notarized. Never registered. Which means Eleanor couldn't use it, I said. Not unless she forged a registration date. Which she did. 2 years after Victor's death. Forgery. Fraud. Manipulation of a minor's inheritance. This wasn't a custody crisis. This was a financial war. I stepped outside. Snow whipped sideways. My phone buzzed. Leo Marin, the Price estate groundskeeper. A man who'd seen more than he ever spoke about. I answered. Leo. His breaths were quick. I shouldn't be calling you. Then why are you? He hesitated. Because you're the only one who doesn't pretend they're saints. Leo talk. I saw Victor, he choked out, the night before he died. My grip tightened on the steering wheel. That's impossible. He came down to the workshop, looked panicked, said someone was trying to take the company from him, said he was rewriting the will, said he had proof. Proof. The same word Bryce used the night before his accident. Then what? I asked. He wasn't alone, Leo said. He was arguing with someone. A woman. Ice slid through my veins. Describe her. Tall. Expensive coat. Red lipstick. Sounded like Eleanor. The phone crackled. Wind hit hard. Leo lowered his voice. And the next day he was dead. Cut scene. I sped toward the hospital. Needed to see the kids. Needed to anchor myself to something real before my head spiraled off cliffs. But the road curved, and headlights flared in my rearview mirror. An SUV. Black. Close. Too close. I gripped the wheel. Not now. It rammed me. Once. I screamed, swerved into the oncoming lane, corrected, heart hammering like a fist in my throat. The SUV accelerated. Second hit. My car fishtailed, skidding toward the guardrail. Snow blasted the windshield. Think, I whispered. Think. Keegan and Isla needed me alive. I slammed the brakes. The SUV shot past, overshot its angle, skidded into the right shoulder. Cut scene. I floored the gas, veering into an open side road, tires carving frantic tracks across ice. The SUV tried to reverse, wheels screeching, snow spraying out in a violent arc. But I was gone. For now. Because people like that didn't give up. They circled. They stalked. They tried again. And again. Somewhere between breaths, I remembered something Leo once said while repairing a fence. Predators don't rush. They enjoy the hunt. I was being hunted. When I finally reached the hospital, my hands were numb. I rushed into the pediatric wing. Keegan sat by Isla's bed, coloring quietly, but his eyes lifted when I entered. Aunt Delaney, his voice trembled. Is Mom in trouble? So many answers. None safe. I knelt beside him. You're safe now. That's what matters. He nodded, but his gaze drifted toward the window. Someone was outside earlier, he whispered. Nurse said I imagined it, but I know what I saw. What did you see? A man, in a hood, staring up. My pulse jumped. Then my phone vibrated. A voicemail transcribed automatically on my screen. Bring the children to the Price cabin at Lone Bear Ridge. Do not call the police. If you don't come by 11 p.m., you'll regret what we dug up from the snow. Eleanor. Threats weren't her style, unless she'd lost control. Unless the truth was clawing out from under the ground she'd buried it in. As I listened, glass shattered down the hall. Keegan flinched. I turned, and a voice echoed from the shadows, low and cold. Delaney, we need to talk about Bryce. The mountain road was a thin ribbon of ice winding upward into the dark. My wipers barely kept up with the snow hammering the windshield. I gripped the wheel tight enough to ache. The voicemail repeated in my head like a curse. Bring the children to the cabin, or you'll regret what we dug up from the snow. I didn't bring them. I brought truth. And Rylan Crim followed behind me in an unmarked truck, lights off, engine low, exactly as I asked. Because this needed to end tonight, and it needed to end on record. Cut scene. The cabin appeared through the storm like a bruise. Dark, heavy, rotting at the edges. A single window glowed weakly. I stepped out. My boots cracked over ice. The cold scraped down my spine like nails. Every breath was visible and shaky. Inside, the air was thick with wood smoke and something sour beneath it, fear. Eleanor stood in the center of the room. Composed. Perfect. Deadly. Delaney, she said, voice soft like she was greeting a dinner guest. You made it. You threatened children, I replied. Her smile curved. You should understand by now, every family has its price. Some pay in money. Some pay in blood. She walked toward the fire, trailing her fingers along a mantel crowded with old hunting photographs. Then she lifted something from the stones. Victor Price's pocket watch. Impossible. We dug it up near the fire pit, she said. Interesting place for it to end up, don't you think? The implication hit like a punch. She'd hidden evidence. Evidence Victor never meant to stay buried. Where's the rest of it? I asked. Where's his phone? Her eyes glinted. Still sleeping under the snowbank, I imagine. Unless Leo moved it again. That man has a habit of misplacing things. I froze. Leo Marin, the witness, the one who claimed he saw Victor the night before he died. But Eleanor's tone too casual, too rehearsed. You killed Victor, I said. She didn't deny it. Instead, she stepped closer. He was rewriting the will, cutting me out, giving the company to Keegan immediately. I couldn't allow that. I earned this life. I built this family's reputation while Victor rotted in paranoia. And Bryce, I whispered. Her smile tightened. He shouldn't have snooped. Stupid boy thought loyalty mattered more than survival. Cut scene. A crack of thunder shook the cabin. Snow pelted the windows. My heartbeat synced with the storm. Uneven, violent. You murdered your own son, I said. She shrugged, like death was just paperwork. People die every day. Heart attacks. Slips on ice. Overdoses. The world makes excuses for bad endings. My hands curled. You put your grandchildren in danger. You used a dead man's voice to terrorize them. Eleanor's eyes sharpened. Children believe anything if you whisper it gently enough. Wind rattled the shutters. Then she dropped the final blade. And you should have died with him. Something moved behind me. Heavy. Fast. The man in the parka stepped into the firelight. Not Bryce. Not even close. Broad shoulders. Scar across the jaw. Eyes empty. Eleanor's enforcer. The one watching me. The one stalking the hospital. The one wearing my husband's ghost like a costume. He reached inside his coat. I lunged sideways as he swung a metal baton, missing my head by inches. Wood splintered. Sparks from the fire shot upward like fleeing birds. "Don't fight," Eleanor said calmly behind me. "It ruins the narrative." I grabbed a fire iron and swung. It connected with his wrist. The baton clattered across the floor. He snarled and tackled me into the wall. My lungs compressed. "You think you're brave," Eleanor murmured. "But bravery without power is suicide." He pinned my arms. I kicked his knee hard. He grunted, loosening his grip. "Delaney!" A voice boomed from outside. "Rylan!" The front door burst open. Snow blasted in. Rylan charged through the storm with his gun drawn. "Montana Sheriff's Department. Don't move!" The enforcer shoved me aside and lunged toward the back of the cabin. Rylan fired once, a warning shot. Wood exploded. The man dove through a window, glass shattering outward into the snow. Cut scene. Eleanor stepped back, hands lifted in faux surrender. "Officer, this woman is unwell. She's been harassing us for months." "Save it," Ryland said. "We found Victor's real autopsy report, and the copy you had was altered." Her face flickered. I moved beside him. "It's over, Eleanor." Her jaw tightened. "You think you've won?" "No," I said. "I think the truth finally has a voice louder than yours." She lunged for the pocket watch, desperate, wild. Rylan grabbed her wrist. She fought like someone who had never lost before. But she lost tonight. They cuffed her, read her rights, and dragged her into the storm she created. Cut scene. Hours later, the snow had softened. The cabin stood quiet. I helped Rylan search the woods. That's when I saw it. A small glint sticking out of a churned snowbank. Victor's missing phone. Frozen. Buried. Waiting. We bagged it. Because evidence always rises eventually, even when villains bury it deep. The next morning, sunlight finally broke through the storm. Warm. Clean. A beginning. I sat on the edge of Keegan's hospital bed while Isla slept curled beside him. He rested his head on my arm. "Are we going to be okay?" he asked. For the first time, I didn't hesitate. "Yes," I said, "because truth wins slowly, but it wins." He nodded, clutching my sleeve. "You're our family now," he whispered. The words hit something tender, something healing. I brushed his hair back. "Family isn't blood," I told him. "It's who stands between you and the storm." A week later, the Price inheritance was placed in a trust. Eleanor was denied bail. The enforcer was found hiding in Idaho. Leo testified. The estate cracked open like rotten ice. Every secret exposed. I received one final system alert on my phone. Price estate admin access. Transferred to Delaney Voss. The lock code changed one last time, this time giving me the one thing I never expected. Full control over a legacy built on lies and a chance to rebuild it with truth.